I feel like I don't need to tell you what Five Nights at Freddy's is. Five Nights at Freddy's has just celebrated its 10th anniversary last year, and chances that you haven't heard of it by now would tell me that you've been living under a rock. In which case, I have no idea how you got here, but for those of you that do live under a rock, I will give a brief description because I'm nothing if not inclusive to all rock dwellers. Five Nights at Freddy's is a horror series that released back in August of 2014 and is a very simple horror game. If thing at door, close door. Then the second game really upped the ante by saying if thing in office, mask. And then the third game really shook up the formula with if thing, child. Then Scott was really getting nostalgic by the time that the fourth game came around that he decided to go back to if thing, door. And while these games are very simple on their own, for me it was more about what was going on outside the regular gameplay. I've personally been following the game series ever since Markiplier released his first episode on August 12th, 2014, and have seen the game evolve over time between FNAF 1 through 4, to Sister Location, Pizza Sim, to Custom Night, and even Security Breach, as much as an ungodly mess that game was. Back before the series got big, Scott used to have more fun with the lore of the games. FNAF 1 didn't really have a whole lot in terms of lore. There were newspaper clippings that could be found on the walls, outside your office on the cameras that tell a story about some kids going missing. That was really about it. And FNAF 2 expanded on that idea quite a bit, with a lot of minigame segments that could randomly appear after you inevitably die from either Foxy not leaving the fucking hallway or not winding the music box. These minigames were a much more in-depth look into the lore that the series would follow with the next two installments. I won't go much into depth on the breakdown of FNAF exactly, because this is the video on Ourple Guy V3, which is transition. Ourple Guy V3 is a mod for Friday Night Funkin' that has existed for around 3 years, give or take. And even though I mentioned earlier how I've been following these games since the very beginning, my memory is very bad, and trying to remember a decade's worth of teasers and lore and songs, because yes, this mod does have motifs to a few FNAF songs, and yes, the one that you're probably thinking of is in here, but don't get ahead of me yet. Why don't we just go ahead and get into what is essentially the first story week. No, you didn't accidentally skip forward, and no, I didn't accidentally cut it while recording. That was the entire cutscene. Be prepared for more things like this, although we do have a few things to go over during this first song. First, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that this isn't a reference to anything. You could probably also tell if you have eyeballs and are using them that this mod has a very distinct art style that is trying to replicate the child drawings that can be found across multiple of the games. It was extremely off-putting to me at first, but it has certainly grown on me, and has become one of my top 5 favorite mods. Ourple Guy's appearance is based on William Afton's sprites in the Take Cake to the Children minigame and the Go 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 minigame from FNAF 2. His chromatics are also taken from FNAF 2, instead being from the Save Them minigame. You'll also notice that there isn't an accuracy rating across the bottom of the screen. Instead, there are 5 star icons. These stars indicate how well you are doing, and I can't find any documentation about the ranges that the stars represent, but if you have 5 flashing stars, that means that you haven't missed any notes. Beyond that, the only thing I could find is a message on the game banana forums talking about it. They seem to have their own idea with the different accuracy ratings, but I'm not good enough at this game to really figure it out for myself. All I know is that I'm usually in the 4 to 5 star range, and I usually get between 80% and 90% accuracy on songs, so it sounds good enough to me. Lastly, and most importantly, Ourple. The meme that this entire mod makes its whole identity doesn't even originate from FNAF. It originates from a TikTok where someone is talking about their cat and how cats used to be worshipped in Egypt. And the top comment on that video is, "And why he Ourple?" Of course, FNAF fans absolutely ran away with this meme because of the scene in Pizza Sim where Michael Afton is walking down a street, after he got his internals scooped out, as well as William Afton having a purple sprite in the earlier FNAF titles. I do also want to mention that I think this takes place in the FNAF 1 pizzeria location, specifically the backstage in the FNAF 4 minigame. It's identical to the room that we're in, including the weirdly flat endoskeleton head, and decapitated Freddy. This office alone should give you a pretty good idea where we are. This is the FNAF 1 office. Doors, fan, phone, windows, and all. Speaking of, how accurate is this office to the actual office in FNAF 1? Well, we've already noted both doors, both windows, and the fan, but the phone is never actually visible in the FNAF 1 office. Of course, since it's used for the song here, they added it as they needed it, but the rest of the office is quite accurate. The Celebrate poster on the left side of the wall, the drink cup in front of 3 small monitors, a couple of monitors to the right side of the fan, 2 desk drawers under the first set of monitors, and even the cobwebs are all in their proper places. The only discrepancies I can find are the tinfoil balls, the speaker under the right side of the desk, and the cupcake that's missing. There's also 7 children's drawings on the right side of the wall in FNAF 1, but only the 4 most prominent ones are represented here, and they are, at least mostly, faithfully redrawn. When Phone Guy starts singing his part of the song, his chromatics are pulled from the FNAF 1 phone call. The only important part of that cutscene was boyfriend falling and Ourple guy killing 4 kids. Afton kills 4 kids whose souls end up possessing Bonnie, Freddy, Chica, and Foxy. Boyfriend and Ourple guy both fell into some location, which obviously doesn't exist in FNAF 1, so I think it's fair to say we've ended up somewhere other than the FNAF 1 location. The gray box behind us looks oddly like a stage, but other than that, there are no discerning characteristics about this place. Very quickly though, we can figure out exactly where we are and what's happening. That gray stage-looking box is the stage that Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica are all standing on during the minigames through FNAF 3's story. It's empty, meaning that all of them have already left, and this song is just showcasing its own rendition of Afton killing each of the animatronics. Even the floor is the exact same, a black and gray checkered pattern. Something interesting to note is that the room with the 2 tables is exactly 1 screen to the right of the stage in FNAF 3. However, the next location in the song is Pirate's Cove, which is 3 screens away. On the bright side, there is exactly 1 table in this room, same as the FNAF 3 map. The final location is the arcade room, which is even further away from where we are at a staggering 5 tiles away, but this is where the big climactic moment in FNAF 3 happens. After destroying all the animatronic suits and freeing the children's spirits, they corner him and force him into a soup to try to escape, but some water leaking from the ceiling hits his sensitive spring locks, killing him. The ghosts weren't there in this rendition, even though he destroyed all the suits. It was just boyfriend and girlfriend, so I'm not exactly sure why he didn't just leave, but that ends the first week of the mod. Extremely faithful to the source material, I would say. And this is the end of week 1. High quality all around for sure, but week 2 was definitely weaker than week 1, so why don't we go ahead and just start week 2.
What's good, Brody?
The fuck?
Where that rent at? That shit definitely due tomorrow.
It's okay, I got it.
What is this shit?
I'm about to get us stacked, bro.
You about to get us fucking evicted.
Relax. When I get this bread, it's gonna be magical.
Bro, you gonna be magically working up more, bro. These are all just the same characters. A chef, a bib, a fedora, bro. Ain't nobody want you Barbie dolls.
You bitches about loud as fuck.
Fuck up, Bethany. We's talking business.
Talking bullshit. No one wanna play coloring book with your honey mustard looking ass.
We are definitely fucked.
I got y'all, bro. This line about to be flames.
Bro, this house is gonna be in flames if you keep up with these fake ass missing posters, bro.
You just mad you ain't got the works, the right sound, and we golden.
I can't believe he's gonna be street rats because you won't bank on some mouse couture ass drawings.
You better get him or I'm about to go off.
You're right. I was working on something to shut this joint down.
This week follows a different set of characters that are trying to pay their rent, and a weird yellow guy wants to sell NFTs to make rent money, which I'm sure is going to go well. Our other 2 characters sure seem confident that he can make up the money. Speaking of weird yellow guy, his name is N. Gerald T, and is an OC created for the mod. The same goes for his 2 other roommates, them being Jack, short for Jackass, and Bethany. There's also a note here mentioning that the entirety of week 2 is getting removed in V4 of the mod due to some issues behind the scenes. Knowing this community, I would guess the creator of these characters got into some kind of drama that the director just wants to avoid. But that isn't really my forte, so we will instead move on to the next cutscene.
Hey, clown my ass, man. I need a rebound. Come on, everyone loves you. I'm just another lamb in a culling. Alright, but just give me a chance. I promise I won't even say your name after. What? Some random kids? Like any specific? Where are you going? Bruh!
Ourple guy asked NGRLT to collect some kids for him, which isn't exactly surprising. Ourple guy's little spider skedaddle is the closest thing we have to any reference or lore to FNAF in this week. Most of the stuff here is fairly face value. NGRLT got a new outfit, but that's really it. By the end of the song, NGRLT fucking dies, which ends the entire week. That was it. I don't want to be needlessly negative, but this is certainly the weakest part of the mod in my opinion. On that note, that means everything after this is good. This mod has only 2 weeks, so we will be heading over to the extras menu to check out all the content that is over there. This song is based on a minigame from Pizza Sim called Midnight Motorist. We're in front of a bar that you can drive to by going through a hole in the side of the railing. The bar is called Juniors, and in the minigame, our yellow-orangish friend here isn't allowed to go inside. The general consensus seems to be that he got banned from this place. Later in the minigame, you go into a house in the woods with 2 other male characters, seemingly sons to whoever this is. The orange guy also mentions owning the house and is fairly aggressive throughout the minigame, leading more credence to the idea that he got banned from the bar. All these signs, plus him driving a purple car, seem to line up with this being William Afton. With all that aside, how accurate is the song? The location is fairly simple, with the building being the only really recognizable thing. I also didn't mention it, but the guy we play as isn't Jack from week 2. We play as this mod's variation of boyfriend and girlfriend, being Brooke and Grace, respectively. So if I ever refer to them by those names, just know I'm talking about boyfriend and girlfriend. Towards the end of the song, right before the spotlights go out, you can see the green guy from the minigame who guards the juniors bar pop his head out and look around for a couple seconds. Very neat little detail.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift.
There is a lot going on with this song because it seems like the creators of the song seem to think that the desk man from FNAF World is Henry. Which, to be fair, we still don't know who this is, but we know for sure that it isn't Henry. Firstly, who is Deskman? Deskman was an NPC that you could talk to inside one of the buildings near the initial spawn area in FNAF World. He would have a few different dialogue options depending where you are in the game, but the only one that we care about is the final one. It's somewhat well known that FNAF World is kind of the bastard child of the franchise, and Scott has gone on record saying that he wished he would have just made a Trill game instead of trying to tie it into the canon games. As such, we can somewhat ignore where the story is now, because the story as it is now would suggest Deskaman is more like a self-insert of Scott Cawthon, because Baby is created by William, not Henry. But if we just pretend that we've gone back in time, back when FNAF World had first came out, it's possible that Scott had an idea for what he wanted the story to be, but it either wasn't working out or he wasn't enjoying it. Maybe he did want Henry to be the one to build Baby and die to her. Because the other half of this song is actually how Henry ends up dying in the main series. If you've spent any amount of time on the internet, I'm sure you've heard this speech before.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed.
This speech occurs during the true ending of Pizza Sim, after you've gathered all the animatronics into the building. Henry calls you and gives you an incredibly powerful speech. He talks about all the spirits that are trapped in the animatronics, and how both his daughter and William's daughter are both trapped inside as well. But he says that he is somewhere nearby and will be remaining with you. Henry starts the fire that burns down the restaurant in Pizza Sim and kills himself in the process. The end of the song shows Baby killing Henry, but if I had to imagine, this is just a reference to FNAF World, like I mentioned earlier. When Dusk Guy dies, there's a short blackout, Baby's voice is heard, and then he is dead. So it seems to imply that she killed him.
The show will begin momentarily. Everyone, please stay in your seats.
This song is about RWQ-FSFASXC, also known as Shadow Bunny. His first appearance was in FNAF 2 as a very rare spawn in the office, but in FNAF 3 was given much more significance. And this version in the mod seems to be based on the FNAF 3 variant. It's fairly obvious this is where we are given the purple border around the screen, like all of the rooms in his minigame have, but none of the rooms look quite like the one that we're in. However, during the transition near the end of the song, we can see some of the rooms flash on screen. Specifically, there are 3. The first one with Shadow Bonnie in the corner of one of the rooms in his minigame, but the other 2 are interesting. The first one is just a different minigame entirely, and the third is a room that you can visit in his minigame. Hell, it's the one that you spawn in. But as you can see, Fredbear is in the floor, which means that this is a different minigame where you control Fredbear. For this song, we play as Ourple Guy, and our opponent is MatPat from the YouTube channel The Game Theorists, who was extremely influential for the theory scene for a long time. He is really the only thing going on in this song, so why don't we just go over whatever it is exactly that he's doing over here. First, his idle pose. It's his usual thumbnail face that gets edited in absolutely fucking everywhere. If he was a PNG tuber, this would be him. His left pose is from FNAF the Musical by Random Encounters. He wields a chainsaw flamethrower and is dressed in a Freddy costume. His down pose is from his thumbnail of Can Gamers Survive the Real Mirror's Edge Game Lab episode, which Game Lab was a YouTube Red series, for those of you in the audience that even remember YouTube Red original series. His right pose is him advertising his game theory merchandise, specifically this image. His up pose comes from his appearance on Nick Rewind's Fact or Niction. Aside from all these poses, we've already covered Ourple Guy, and the only interesting thing to note about Phone Guy is that his chromatics have been sampled from FNAF 1 phone calls. The song is also our first instance of being able to pick Authentic or Refined when we play it. Authentic seems to be a version of the song from V1 or V2, and Refined is the V3 version. However, the song itself doesn't actually change, so it's purely visual, which I find somewhat strange. Anyway, let's move on. This song has new sprites for Brooke and Grace, as well as having an opponent who has nothing to do with the FNAF franchise. He was originally going to have a song in V1, but the devs claimed that it felt too rushed, so they decided to just keep him out. Eventually, he became an inside joke between the devs, and they released his song in V3. He comes from a Twitter user named Salami Paste, who tried to make the worst movie poster ever. In this poster, we can see Jones, who is apparently going to be voiced by Adam Sandler. Either way, that's it. The only other notable thing is that whenever Jones hits a right note, he punches Brooke and drains some of your health. The health drain cannot kill you. Next song. We saw the room that this song takes place in earlier during Lurking, but this time we play as Fredbear, and although Spring Bonnie is technically our opponent, it's more of a collaborative effort. We don't really get a good look at the entire room, but we can see what color the stage and border are, along with the kids wearing green and there being a couple of clouds on the wall. Everything here looks extremely like the FNAF 3 minigame. Unfortunately, we don't do any boundary breaking in this song like you do as Fredbear in FNAF 3. But we do get some animation shifts toward the end of the song. Spring Bonnie's idle changes, as well as the children's idle animations, to them doing the Gangnam Style. Eventually, even Fredbear looks less angry or nervous, and more excited and or happy. This song is a reference to Markiplier. Go fucking figure. However, there is at least a little bit more to it than that. It isn't just nonsense for 4 minutes and 25 seconds. The cabinet for the song is Mark's thumbnail for his first ever FNAF video, the original title being Warning, Scariest Game in Years, Five Nights at Freddy's, Part 1, which at the time of writing this script is sitting at 122 million views. Secondly, when the song starts, you can see a spinning buffer icon that YouTube at least used to display when your video is struggling to load. I don't know what it looks like now, or if they even have one. I imagine they do. But the credits for the song are also worth mentioning. Usually the credits slide in on an ethereal panel that comes out of fucking nowhere. But for this song, they use the old system that YouTube used to have called annotations. Annotations were essentially colored boxes that you could add into the video in post that would have text on them, and you could have it link the user to some other website or whatever if they clicked on the annotation. YouTube removed these annotations entirely at the start of 2019, so they definitely would have been around when the video came out in 2014. One discrepancy I do want to point out is that into the intro of the song, it says that Mark is playing the 1.0 full release of the game, which is just wrong. In Mark's first video, he's playing the demo, not the full game. Small detail, but I figured it was worth noting. The last thing I want to mention is that your star rating is in the bottom right corner by the score for this song. This could be referencing the fact that YouTube also used to have a 5-star system, but was removed in 2010 for the like and dislike system. It's possible they also just wanted to have your accuracy rating on screen and there wasn't really anywhere to put it that it wouldn't get in the way. My guess is that it's a bit of both, not really a direct reference to the 5-star system, since it wouldn't have been around for this video, but it is an interesting coincidence that they used the 5-star system for accuracy. This song is another one that has an option of going into authentic or refined when selecting it again. Authentic Byte is similar to Authentic Lore that we saw earlier, in that it's just a bunch of stretched PNGs of the characters for the entirety of the song. Hell, they gave the Bonnie PNG hands just to play the guitar. This song is a reference to Take Cake to the Children minigame in FNAF 2. You play as a little Freddy who seems to be our opponent, whose goal is to keep the children happy by giving them cake. There seems to be a child who is locked outside the building and can't get in. As you play the minigame, you start slowing down, and a purple car drives up to the child. Purple guy gets out and kills the child before driving away. The marionette jump scares you at the end of the minigame, implying that the child, who was just murdered, ends up possessing the marionette. This is further confirmed by the security puppet minigame later in the series, but we won't really worry about that. Here we see the children in their green shirts and the child locked outside crying. Eventually, Purple Guy drives up and yells, "Go fuck yourself," before killing the child. Also, through later games, we figure out this child is the daughter of Henry, named Charlotte. Obviously, William yelling at the child before murdering them isn't exactly in the original minigame, but it is a fairly accurate retelling as far as the mod goes. Old Man Consequences is a character that has appeared across 2 games, FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night. Both appearances are similar, but this rendition specifically is based on his UCN appearance, as that is where his dialogue comes from, as well as our character jumping into the lake at the end of the song. There isn't too much to go over other than that, however. The only question for me is, who are we playing as? In the games, I feel as if the Little Red Freddy isn't really a character, but on the wiki, they state outright that the Little Red Freddy in the Old Man Consequences minigames is Cassidy. Cassidy is the girl who haunts Golden Freddy. But I cannot find any sources that confirm this, or even any theory crafting posts talking about how this might even slightly be the case. But that seems to be what they're going with. There is no references or documentation on the wiki, but the Game Over screen definitely seems to imply that they think this is Cassidy. Trapped is kind of an interesting case. The character we go against isn't actually anyone from FNAF lore, but instead, more so a fan character by trying to decipher the Springtrap teasers before FNAF 3 came out. It looks like a mix between Springtrap and Phantom Freddy. Strangely, the song also uses Brooke's actual design instead of the arcade design, implying that this section is actually happening to Brooke. The trippy and hallucinogenic nature of the song also seems to imply this. Aside from that, where are we? Well, it looks similar to the FNAF 3 office, but there are no arcade cabinets in the FNAF 3 office, and when the song shifts into daytime, we can see outside the window as opposed to it being an interior window for casual Springtrap watching. I went back through all the cameras in FNAF 3 and couldn't find any location that seemed similar enough to this area, so it seems to me like it's made just for the mod. Occasionally, fires will appear across the ground, which is a reference to the fact that at the end of FNAF 3, the entire building burns down. And during some of Brooke's hallucinations, we see some odd characters. Going in order from right to left, we have Withered Toy Bonnie by Christian2099 on DeviantArt. He has a lot of different artworks for Withered Toy Bonnie, but I felt like this one fit best. Secondly, we have what was a Photoshop hoax back when FNAF 2 first came out. It was rumored to be a purple guy animatronic that could spawn in the office. However, it was just Golden Freddy with Chica's head colored purple on top of it. Lastly, we have what is referred to as FNAF 1 Hybrid, which is, as the name suggests, a hybrid of all the FNAF 1 animatronics. The original image is made by Kippo1YT. I'm not entirely sure why this one is here specifically, as the user doesn't seem to have any connection with the Ourple guy mod, but that's where it comes from. The last thing I wanted to mention is a motif that I noticed while I was playing the song the first time. The motif is to Salvaged by Nate Wants to Battle, specifically the chorus. The last thing we have to cover is that this song has an authentic version, just like Byte and Lore. What can I say, except they used more DeviantArt images as the poses for the song. None of them have any lore significance, so don't worry. But for the sake of being thorough, let's get through them quickly. His idol is Fredbear/Salvage Edit by DoggoMan69. His left is Meeting You Hoax by CrazyBot1331. His up is Fredbear from Fredbear the Animatron. His down is Salvage WIP by Coolio Art. I couldn't find his right pose anywhere, and it's not on the wiki either, and God forbid I spend any more time on DeviantArt. Let's just move fucking on. This is one of the few songs in the mod where I went in with zero idea of what was happening the entire time. He apparently is a mostly popular creator on TikTok that made a beatbox of the Living Tombstone's FNAF 1 song, which made him popular in the community. Beyond that, doesn't seem to hold too much significance. This song is based on the Fredbear plush from FNAF 4. Some of you may know him as Psychic Friend Fredbear from MatPat's Theories when the game first came out. The song is relatively simple. We're just going over all the locations that Fredbear follows you throughout FNAF 4, with the exception of the outside areas. He starts off in the void before moving to your bed. He then moves on top of the grandfather clock, and then to the couch. And those are all 3 locations that you can find him in the house. Obviously, the perspective difference is making it seem a little bit off, but everything looks accurate as far as I can tell. They even have the framed pictures of blue paper on the wall by the clock. About halfway through the song, we transition into the sister location office, and he's sitting on the desk, which might feel strange to you considering that this isn't a minigame location. However, if you look at the office and sister location, you can see a Fredbear plushie on the table with a walkie-talkie next to it. This implies that someone has been talking to Crying Child through the walkie-talkie. But who is it? Well, it's certainly not William, as Fredbear speaks to the child with William around, so it's not entirely clear who it might be. But that is the reason that he shows up here. This song also has a motif to the Living Tombstone's FNAF 4 song. This song is also one of our secret songs are. You have to click the bottom right monitor during the sister location section. We are in the FNAF 4 bedroom, playing as someone with Pico's chromatics against Nightmare. Nightmare was added to FNAF 4 in a Halloween update as a replacement for Nightmare. Believe it or not, this secret song doesn't have too much to talk about, but I didn't want to just skip it because I already skipped the other one. which I will throw in now because I don't know where the fuck else to put it. Enjoy. Yes, I'm going to make you waste your time here. No, there is nothing here of substance. You can access the song by going to Guy and pausing and resuming the song until you see a different Ourple guy sprite on the pause screen, and then click it. I think all of us have suffered enough. Let's leave. This song is just us watching the crying child from FNAF 4 reliving his traumatic memories and trying to remember his home. This song has no real significance, but we do get to see some blurry images of the FNAF 4 house that crying child lives in, as well as a blurry version of his nightmares. Faz News is based on a series made by Quiet Tomato on YouTube, which involves Springtrap and Mangle as the main characters. The series has two different names, being Springtrap and Mangle more recently, and when it first started, it was Springtrap meets Mangle. The wiki also claims that Tomato himself worked on the V3 sprites, but then proceeds to provide zero sources for the claim. So believe it if you want to. Also, in the wiki, Mangle has a bunch of misposes that go unused because she's not the playable character, and Springtrap actually has no misposes. You can miss all you want, and he won't do anything. This is likely some form of miscommunication between the dev team and the artist. I noticed and thought it was a funny detail. I've also managed to, at least probably, figure out where one of those posters came from. Back when this series was called Springtrap Meets Mangle, there was an episode dedicated to chocolate cake. A similar poster can also be found in episode 1 of Springtrap and Mangle. I did an intense amount of skimming through all the episodes, and I noticed that episodes 3 and 4 are both missing from the channel. I also was unable to find where that second poster came from. Anyway, I think our closest direct comparison is the 4th anniversary video. There's a poster in the background, and even if it's not either of the ones in the mod, Springtrap and Mangle are positioned similarly in the room, and the room looks fairly similar. Springtrap is also reading a newspaper. Even Mangle's up pose seems to come from this animation. When I first played the song, I figured it was made for the mod, but as it turns out, no. The song is a reference to Day Shift at Freddy's, which is a visual novel style game that, as the name suggests, takes place during the daytime at a Freddy's location. Normally I would play the game myself, however there are 3 of those little bastards, so I will instead be trusting the Ourple guy and Day Shift at Freddy's wikis to tell me whatever is going on here. First, the namesake of the song, Miller. His name is Henry Miller in the Day Shift universe, and he worked with William Afton and assisted William in the slaughtering of countless children. He is apparently also responsible for the Freddy blowtorch urinal incident and the death of the main protagonist, Jack. Speaking of Jack, why don't we move over to our characters, because there sure are a lot of them. Starting with Jack, which is the orange guy at the top, Jack Kennedy's actions can be influenced by your decisions quite heavily, but his goal is to fulfill a promise that he made to Fredbear by saving all of the dead children's souls and granting them their happiest day. Next is Dave Miller. Dave Miller is the fake name that William Afton uses throughout the series. No, he doesn't have any relation to Henry Miller. He acts as an antagonist for a majority of the first and second game, but ends up alongside you in the third. The puppet is Dee Kennedy. The puppet appears in every Day Shift game, and is the sister to Jack Kennedy. She mostly wants to help Jack in his goal in giving the children's souls their happiest day. Floating next to Dee is Blackjack. He is Jack's soul, and responsible for Henry getting trapped in the void. He is able to move through timelines and is a physical manifestation of Jack's desire to prevent Dee's death. Next is Steven Stevenson. Steven generally opposes Jack regardless of the route taken, and will usually serve as a secondary antagonist to William Afton. He's seen in many cases to be a coward, and fears facing the consequences of his own actions. For example, after a Springlock failure, he sends Peter's body to a factory instead of burying him. He lets Peter get converted into a phone guy like himself, just to avoid any kind of consequences. Lastly, we have the aforementioned Peter Kennedy, brother of Jack and Dee. He is the manager of the Day Shift 2 location, and is a more lenient boss than the first phone guy. He has a moral compass and isn't afraid to stand up to your shitty decisions should you decide to make them. The song specifically seems to take place in Day Shift 3. The good ending of Day Shift at Freddy's 3 has Henry Miller facing off against all of these characters in some kind of void. The same void that we can be seen playing the song in. The same mechanic can even be found here. As we hit the I notes, we deal enough damage to the sprites around Henry. You will even use the same insults found in Day Shift 3 to kill your party members. The main difference being that he kills them at certain points in the song, as opposed to when his spites break. If you break all the spites, you get the good ending. If you don't break all the spites, you get the bad ending. The song plays out the same way regardless. The only thing that changes is which ending you get. The good ending sequence of everybody absolutely dunking on Henry also comes from the good ending of Day Shift 3. This is another thing that I'm entirely unaware of, but thankfully this is much easier to follow than the entirety of the Day Shift at Freddy series. SML is a YouTube channel that makes videos with puppet characters. He's done some FNAF related ones, and as such has ended up in the mod. He plays a chef who is apparently supposed to be a parody of the Swedish Chef from the Muppets against Freddy Fazbear. The wiki mentions that the Freddy puppet used in the actual videos doesn't really at all resemble the one found here in the mod, which I skimmed through a couple videos and I think I would tend to agree. I did happen to catch where the song background comes from though. It's from SML movie Chef PP Quits Part 5 at 3 minutes and 17 seconds. They just zoomed in on the right side of the shot. this time, we're up against a Shadow Freddy-esque character named Sinnoh. He doesn't actually have an official name, but internally they seem to refer to him as Sinnoh, so I will be doing the same. Sinnoh lacks any arms or legs and has a habit of transforming into discontorted shapes throughout the song. He maintains this until the start of the third phase, where he begins to mimic the 4 original Freddy's mascots, but more so resembling their withered counterparts. During Foxy's section, you can see the word GO written across the background, which is a reference to one of Foxy's minigames in FNAF 2. We can see by phase 4 and 5 that Sinnoh is starting to get to Brooke. The colors are getting more distorted and Sinnoh's outline more hazy than before. The song ends with Brooke and Sinnoh being trapped inside the arcade machine. I'm not entirely sure what to make of Followed. The entire mod seems to be Brooke and Grace playing some arcade cabinets that they enjoy, and the versions of them that we see in the songs aren't actual versions of them that exist. We've seen a couple of songs that use the human versions of them, including Trapped and Bad Arse, so with those two exceptions in mind, I think Followed is Brooke playing the cabinet like normal, but he gets traumatized by Sinnoh. It's possible even some piece of Brooke gets stuck inside the Followed cabinet. The cutscene before Followed also seems to imply that this cabinet may not even be real and may just be Brooke dealing with some kind of trauma that he has. Seems to me that after you've beaten every single song, that Brooke comes back to the arcade after it is shut down for the night, which explains why it's so dark and all the other cabinets are off. The Followed cabinet doesn't actually exist, or wouldn't be able to work in the first place. It's really hard to tell who Sinnoh is, or why he is here, but it seems clear that he's targeting Brooke for some reason, and is likely trying to get out of the cabinet for him. It's possible that he already has. Maybe us playing through the song lets him leave, but I think it makes more sense that us beating the song lets Brooke escape, but failing the song lets Sinnoh escape. A unique death screen for the song might also give us some kind of an idea. Sinnoh doesn't kill Brooke. It seems as if Sinnoh has other plans. And to me, possession makes the most sense given FNAF's entire storyline is animatronics getting possessed. It could also be that Sinnoh is just malicious and wants Brooke to suffer, but that feels too simple for me. Another thing that I want to throw out there is that it feels a little strange that in Phase 3 with the puppets, where Sinnoh mimics the animatronics, is it possible that he isn't mimicking them at all? The first thing that tipped me off to this idea is that Foxy notably has 2 sets of hands holding him during his section. Why would this be necessary if Sinnoh was just mimicking Foxy? There's also a giant pair of hands behind Sinnoh starting as soon as the puppets drop. I think Sinnoh may be holding the children's souls captive and using them against you. The hands in the background keep most of the animatronics in place except for one, Foxy. The idea that Sinnoh may be able to manipulate souls also helps with the idea that he may be trying to possess Brooke. If he can control the children's souls, it may not entirely be impossible that he could remove Brooke's soul from his body and take him over. Of course, Brooke is older than just a child, so his soul would require some weakening down beforehand. But what do you think? Do you think Sinnoh just wants to possess Brooke, or just, traumatize him a little bit as a treat? Let me know down in the comments. I'm sorry that I wasn't as knowledgeable on some of the Day Shift at Freddy stuff, but I hope the video was enjoyable anyway. It was really interesting doing research for the video and noticing how much of the stuff that I actually remembered, you know, from when I was in middle school and high school when these games were coming out. And since this game series is over a decade old now, it's crazy to see how much things have changed since then. Now, I know the devs are planning on making an Ourple Guy V4, which, as I mentioned before, won't have Week 2 in it, and is going to focus more on Brooke as a character, from what I've seen on it, which I feel like is kind of a dangerous direction to go a little bit, considering that this is more a mod about FNAF and FNAF-related things. But I definitely think there's a good way to do this. If they take their time with it, it is definitely attainable. Which, considering Ourple Guy V3 came out in December of 2023, it seems like they certainly are. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you do all the usual YouTube things, you know, like, subscribe, comment, whatever. I make a lot of Friday Night Funkin' deep dives like this one, and post them semi-regularly. So, thank you for watching. If you want more of them, I have a Mario's Madness video and a Gorefield video up that you can go watch. So make sure to check those out as well. Bye-bye!